The government has opened the floodgates for foreign direct investment to flow into the country now, relaxing the norms across the spectrum. As many as 7 sectors will now be able to attract more foreign investments, and while some are restricted to brownfield projects only, like in the case of Pharma, in others like defense, aviation and single brand retail, it covers greenfield projects as well. And like CNBC TV 18 told you, single brand retailers who bring cutting edge technology in India will be exempt from the 30% sourcing norms in India. We're now joined by the CEO of NITI Aayog, Amitabh Kant, and Shereen Bhan is here with me in the studio to take us through that interview.
Well, thanks very much. Yes, joining us now is the CEO of NITI Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, the man who drove the first edition of the liberalization that we saw for the FDI regime while he was at the DIPP. Mr. Kant, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you as far as what's happened on the single brand sourcing requirements, sir. Because if I'm correct, there was a cabinet decision that was taken maybe about a year or so ago when this government had actually come to power, so 2 years ago if my memory serves me right, wherein it was decided that in the case of state-of-the-art technology, an exemption could be given from local domestic sourcing. So now it seems that you actually made it more stringent for companies like Apple, not less.
Okay, let me first compliment DIPP and for initiating some very radical changes in today's policy measures. They have very far-reaching consequences as far as attracting FDI is concerned. As far as measures that have been taken, these are going to push FDI in several areas of growth, particularly pharma and civil aviation. But you raised the point about single brand retail trading, and I think this is a very progressive move, because what it says is that you've relaxed local sourcing norms of up to 3 years, long term, and then they get another 5 years, which are for entities undertaking single brand retail, because at the end of 8 years, you will just have to, for first 3 years, you don't have to source at all, and then at the end of the 8th year, you just have to do 30% sourcing. So I think it's a very, very liberal move forward. Now,
on that front, if I could get you to clarify for us, sir, because wasn't it a policy already in place that local sourcing would be exempt if somebody met the criteria of state-of-the-art technology? So now you're actually saying that the exemption will only be for 3 years. So earlier there was an exemption that the government could have provided.
Because the eventual objective is that we need to give a thrust to manufacturing domestically. Many telecom companies have already come in. In fact, in the last 2 years, we've had 50 companies coming into India to do manufacturing. Now, if all of them start seeking exemptions, there will be a very adverse implication of this. This policy has been examined on the balance of what's good for the country, what's good for manufacturing in India. And I think we've discussed with the applicants. They feel that a 3-year policy regime of exempting from local sourcing and another 5 years for them to ensure that there is a 30% sourcing is more than adequate. This is more than a 8-year window is more than adequate. And in the long run, our objective as a country is that we should not become a nation of just traders. We should become a nation of manufacturers. And since other telecom companies have already come into the country in big time into manufacturing, we should ensure that manufacturing needs to be continued on a continued momentum.
Okay, I understand that point. So just to understand this further, and then I'll move away from single brand retail. So, for instance, would somebody like Apple now need to reapply for permission because they'd already sought the government's permission, but now that this policy stands changed as of today, will somebody like Apple now need to reapply?
No, I don't think they need to reapply. Their existing application can be looked at from this perspective. There's no need for a fresh application.
So you're saying Apple need not put in a fresh application? The current application could be looked at?
Current application with these conditions can be now, once this has been decided, it can move forward. There's absolute clarity on this issue. So we need not delay things further.
But the government will still have to define very clearly what you mean by state-of-the-art technology.
That has already been done by the committee.
Okay.
That has already been done by the committee in DIPP.
This is the committee that was set up earlier, which you were a part of, sir?
No, the NITI was a part of, not I was not. It was chaired by Secretary DIPP. This is all being driven by DIPP.
Yeah. Okay, let me now talk to you about the defense sector, sir. Is there a realization that without control, big ticket FDI into the defense sector was just not happening, and hence the government has now decided to further liberalize FDI in the defense sector, hence doing away with the 49% cap, in a sense, all the way to 100%?
No, what has been done away with is that we must first understand that defense is a monopsony. The buyer is actually the government, and in the long run, government orders must flow out. Nobody manufactures, is going to come into the country only for exports. They're going to come in for defense manufacturing here to supply to India and then also use it as a base for exports. So what has been done, the earlier policy had said that you can do up to 49%, and beyond 49%, you could do it in cases of modernization and state-of-the-art
technology.
Now,
and transfer
what we
of
found
technology.
was that state-of-the-art was becoming difficult to define. So we've said that foreign investment beyond 49% has now been permitted through government approval route, and in cases resulting in access of technology. That's all. You don't need state-of-the-art condition at all. The condition of access to state-of-the-art technology has been totally done away with.
So which basically, Mr. Kant, means that just about any global player can go up to 100%,
That's
of
right.
course by way of the government approval route, but
Yes.
Anyone can go up to 100%, any
right.
defense player can go up to 100%.
Yeah, through the approval route of the government. Yes, that's right, through the approval route of the government. That's
So this has met
that's an
with-
enabling provision, but for all defense manufacturing, essentially defense manufacturing is about, getting orders from the government, and therefore I think there are several other things in the ecosystem which are being put right. A lot of things have been done in the defense manufacturing, licensing, ease of doing business. Many things have been done, and this is one more step in the right direction of making India a defense manufacturing powerhouse.
Okay, Mr. Kant, there is a degree of disappointment as far as domestic manufacturers in the defense sector are concerned. They feel that this will put them at a disadvantage because just about every global player from Airbus to Boeing, of course, will now not need to go through necessarily the joint venture route, but can set up a 100% venture here in India.
No, not at all. Our objective is to give a huge thrust to domestic manufacturing and to make all these players do it in partnership with our local players. That is the objective, and that is why everything that has been done is through the approval route of the government. I mean, no domestic manufacturer should ever have the feeling that we are not going to give a push to domestic manufacturing. Our whole thrust is on domestic manufacturing and in partnership with Indian companies.
But Mr. Kant, let me go back to the question that I started by asking you. Was there a realization within government that this policy required review specifically for the defense sector? Because despite the fact that everyone's talked about this great big defense opportunity, foreign direct investment into defense has been a big laggard, sir, even after the liberalization.
You're right. So we need to give domestic manufacturing and defense a big impetus. And it's necessary that we open up a little more, but we open up in a manner where we ensure that investments that come in are done as the objective of ensuring that manufacturing is done domestically and in many ways done in partnership with Indian companies, and that Indian companies continue to grow and flourish. And that's why only the state-of-the-art, because state-of-the-art technology becomes very difficult to define. What's state-of-art for me is very different from state-of-art for somebody else. It may be very difficult for state-of-art.
But won't you run into the exact same problem when it comes to single brand retail, sir, then?
No, so that's why in the case of single brand, there's a specific committee which has defined it. In this case, we'll have to fall back on Ministry of Defense. But in defense there's another issue, and that issue is one of ensuring that there is greater amount of orders to flow out from the government, and that a number of structural changes are now being made to ensure that there's a big push for manufacturing in India. So I think our objective is local domestic manufacturing in defense, essentially, and companies coming in to invest in India.
Let me move to civil aviation, Mr. Kant, and ask you about that, because the government, while it's said that FDI could go all the way up to 100%, it has decided to cap foreign airlines at the current cap, which is 49%. But those are the existing investors who are keen to invest further. I mean, Tony Fernandes was on the channel just a short while ago saying, I don't understand it, I want to invest more, and what is then the purpose of 100% cap, or doing away with the cap all the way to 100% if I can't invest more? So why the decision to keep the foreign carrier cap at 49%, sir?
No, we've said, the policy says, now what does the present FDI policy says? Foreign investment up to 49% is allowed under automatic route in scheduled air transport service and domestic scheduled passenger airline. It is now, what the government has decided is to raise this limit to 100%, with FDI up to 49% under automatic route, and FDI beyond 49% through government approval. So what his understanding is not correct. You can go up to 100% through the government approval route. Earlier it was only 49%. You
No,
go up
sir,
to right up
because
to 100%. You go right up to 100%.
No, sir, because that's not what the policy says, and I'm just trying to pull out the exact,
the
exact copy
FDI,
of the policy, sir.
I'm reading it out to you. You can go up to 100% subject to government approval. Subject to government approval.
No, sir, I'm going to paragraph number 5 in today's press release, civil aviation, point number 3, and I'll read that out to you. As per the present FDI policy, foreign investment up to 49% is allowed under the automatic route. However, foreign airlines would continue to be allowed to invest in capital of Indian companies operating scheduled and non-scheduled air transport services up to the limit of 49% of their paid-up capital. And
foreign airlines,
yes,
only foreign airlines.
yes.
But others
Absolutely.
can go up to 100%. We don't want foreign airlines to get in and, take over all the Indian airlines. Existing airlines
so
can
who
go
do you believe will be
vast,
interested, sir? Because NRIs were already allowed under the automatic route at 100%. Foreign carriers continue to be capped at 49%. Who do you believe will be interested, sir?
No, you can get a lot of FDI in the several cases where FDI is willing to come in beyond 49%, go up to right up to 100%. This is a calibrated move to ensure that instead of allowing all foreign airlines to take over Indian airlines which are owned by Indian companies, that will be a disastrous thing for India. So allow in a calibrated manner, allow FDI to come into this and go up to 100%.
Okay.
I think to my mind, if you are allowing up to 49% through the automatic route and going up to 100% with FDI through the government approval route is a big step forward.
Okay. Typically, who would you see would come in through this route, sir? I think
we'll have to.
And let me ask you.
My view is that you'll have to wait and watch on this as to who comes in. There may be several people willing to come in, but not necessarily. Don't allow too many foreign airlines to take over Indian companies which have opened up in India. That's the view.
Okay. Let me then ask you about what the government has decided to do on food products that are manufactured and produced in India. This, of course, is part of the stated budget announcement that the finance minister had made earlier this year. The policy or the press release doesn't specify if there are any caveats attached to this. Do the sourcing requirements do they stay for food processing and food marketing, or are there no conditionalities attached?
There's no conditionalities on back end, etc. There's no conditionality. Important thing is to get investments in food processing. Move forward on that. It has been decided to allow 100% FDI and government approval route for trading, including e-commerce, in respect of food products manufactured or produced. No caveat at all. Just move forward.
Okay, so
are you reading anything that I think it's a very progressive step forward.
No, absolutely, which is why I'm saying that I don't know if there is something that is not there in the press release.
No, it's a big step forward, moving forward on food processing. 100% government approval route, including e-commerce.
The reason I ask you this
anything that's manufactured or produced in India, go ahead and do 100% FDI.
Okay, the reason I ask you that, sir, because was there a change of heart? Because the food processing minister, when she was speaking with us last month had very categorically stated that she would like some conditionalities as far as local sourcing, etc. were concerned. So the government, in its wisdom, has decided that that won't really make sense, and you've decided to do away with any caveats or conditionalities.
No, Shereen, too many conditionalities is not a good thing. We should allow movement forward. And I think especially, what are you doing? You're doing it for food products manufactured or produced in India, within India. And no conditionality is required at all. So government has rightly decided that we need to move forward on this.
What will this result in, Mr. Kant? Because if I were to take a look at the FDI numbers, inflows for 2015-16 at about $55 billion, the highest that we've seen. Do you believe that this is going to now result in significantly higher FDI inflows, these measures that have been announced today?
I think, first of all, it establishes that India now is the most open economy in the world for FDI. Undeniably, India is the most open economy in the world for FDI. It has emerged as the #1 FDI investment destination by several international agencies. It has demonstrated that if there's political will, determination, India's FDI regime will grow. It will bring in new technology. It will enable a lot of growth momentum to take place. And I think this is one of the most progressive decisions taken by the government.
Is there anything at all that's left, sir, on the FDI front that requires any possible review or change, or are we pretty much done now?
No, Shereen,
because today you've addressed another 9 odd sectors. So
92% of the FDI comes through the automatic route. Just about 8% used to come. I think with this, we'll reach close to about 95-96% coming through the automatic route. So it just demonstrates how radical the changes have been in the last 2 years. They've demonstrated the determination of the government to push radical changes, and all these changes have been driven by the government.
This further puts a question mark on the relevance and the role of the FIPB, does it not, Mr. Kant?
Well, 3%, 4%, that's okay. Some things need to be controlled by government. It's important. There are some critical areas like defense, etc. And therefore, for those 3 to 4, couple of percent of FDI coming into the country where you need security controls, it's important to go through FIPB. But wherever there's a separate licensing mechanism, FIPB controls have been done away with. I think big step forward, big progressive move forward, and I think government and DIPP needs to be congratulated for this.
I don't mean to be unfair, sir, but if I could ask you about the timing of today's announcement, it seems that the government decided to bat on the front foot and take away from any sort of negative commentary on Governor Rajan's departure.
Nothing to do with him. This has been work in progress for quite. If you talk to DIPP, if you talk to Mrs. Sitaraman, who's driven this, it's been the work in progress for quite some time, and it's a progressive move forward. Nothing to do with Mr. Rajan at all. This is India's macroeconomic fundamentals are too strong for one individual to upset them at all. I think the government in the last 2 years has taken a vast number of measures across sectors, and I think India's very sound economy. It's on very sound footing for one individual on moving from one job to another to upset India's basic macroeconomic fundamentals.
My final question before I let you go, Mr. Kant, of the 9 sectors that have been further liberalized today, do you believe that the big ticket items could really be food marketing and, of course, defense? Do you believe that those could be the big ticket sectors?
I think you missed out the big push in Pharma. And Pharma, we've gone up to 74% under automatic route in Brownfield pharmaceuticals. And government approval route beyond 75% will continue. So all sectors are critical. Pharma, civil aviation, defense, single brand retail, all of them. And I think one of the big changes that establishment of branch office, liaison office or project office will not be required in cases where FIPB approval. This used to take a long time, and this is a very big step on ease of doing business. So big changes.
Big changes, certainly. Mr. Kant, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for taking us through the details and the rationale and the thinking behind the government's decision to further liberalise these 9 sectors. Appreciate your time, as always, here on CNBC TV 18. That's the CEO of the NITI Aayog taking us through the changes that have been announced by the government across a whole host of sectors. And remember, you heard it first here on CNBC TV 18.